Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Unforgiven is the Western I decided to watch this week. Trying to watch a lot of Westerns. I haven't watched many, and kind of getting into the Western. Very simple stories. Kind of an interesting going into a different type of reality where things were a little bit simpler and I don't know. It's Unforgiven, a movie that has won a bunch of Academy Awards, won Best Picture. I am not a fan of Clint Eastwood. I'm not a fan of Clint Eastwood films. I think he is one of the most overrated directors. But I decided to watch Unforgiven, which I had not seen ever before. I think maybe I had seen it once when I was a kid, but I didn't really remember it. But I decided because it is one of the kind of staples, one of the most well-known Westerns that's out there. And it was a good movie. Kind of interesting movie, considering Clint Eastwood's politics in real life. Clint Eastwood... I think well-known conservative, whereas this movie, which he directed and stars in, is about a guy, an old-timer, right, a violent outlaw, or at least was once a violent outlaw, who is taking on one last job. But it's about a marginalized group of people abused by these cowboys. You have these sex workers abused by a cowboy, and the sheriff defends the cowboy, right, over the sex workers, which happens to this day. Law enforcement regularly demonizes marginalized groups and allows people to abuse them and not be held accountable for their crimes. And then Clint Eastwood's character is standing up for this marginalized group and defending their honor, despite the fact that the police, because he is defending this marginalized group, defending these sex workers, he is then considered to be an evil outlaw himself. Which is kind of weird, because I would imagine Clint Eastwood is very much pro-police, very much anti-marginalized groups. You don't really hear about Clint Eastwood standing up for marginalized groups ever. So it's kind of weird that he directed a film and started a film where he is standing up for the little guy. With that said, I did enjoy this movie. You have the old-timer, this prostitute gets brutalized by a cowboy. They pool their money, and the sheriff doesn't want to do anything about it, protecting this cowboy, not doing anything, because the sex workers are considered to be comparatively similar to cattle. So the sex workers get together, they pool their money together, and they decide to hire some outlaws to avenge them, to kill these cowboys that brutalized the sex worker. Coming soon, a new podcast from The Ray Taylor Show, the unofficial Severance Recap Podcast. Mark leads a team of office workers whose memories have been surgically divided between their work and personal lives. When a mysterious colleague appears outside of work, it begins a journey to discover the truth about their jobs. Join Ray Taylor as he breaks down every episode of Season 1 of the new Apple TV show, Severance. First episode released June 7th. New episodes released every Tuesday. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. Go to inspireddisorder.com for links. And Clint Eastwood plays one of these old-timer guys who used to be this super violent killer at one point. You also have Morgan Freeman plays his buddy Ned, who is his partner, who he ends up getting to help him on this job. This job is put together by this kid that's like overexcited kid that's like bloodthirsty, lies about his experience killing people, can't see for shit, and then you have these old timer guys that can barely hit the broadside of a barn. So kind of fun, kind of funny in that way, that they're just like these kind of losers. They're not very good at what they do, and they go out to try and do this thing. And it gets to a point where Ned can't do it. He can't pull the trigger. He can't kill somebody. He's too old for this shit. And he leaves the group. And when he leaves, he gets picked up by the sheriff and beaten by the sheriff, and eventually dies by his torture because he's been tortured. And after his death, he's displayed out front as a warning to anybody who decides to take law into their own hands or whatever. And Clint Eastwood's character can't take it and decides to drink again. And drinking is like his magic juice that allows him to be the super killer that he used to be. This movie also like shows how manipulative, effortlessly manipulative history can be. Because one of the characters is a writer who's following this other guy who's got these legends about him, but is completely uncovered, and the sham has been exposed and by the sheriff, and then the writer kind of jumps ship on that guy and decides to write the stories that the sheriff has, and then jumps ship on that to write the stories of Clint Eastwood's character. And it's it's good. It's simple movie. They get their men. They follow through. Ned gets killed, which is a bummer, because I love Morgan Freeman, and it's sad that he dies. Gene Hackman plays the sheriff. He's a great character as well, despite being a horrible person. Just kind of a good, like this revenge story, and then it's a revenge story within a revenge story, because it's like they're hired guns to take care of this thing, and then even after they take care of it, that's not even where it ends. It ends with this taking out of the actual criminal element, which is the sheriff that is perpetuating the violence in a town that outlaws guns. Like, you're not allowed to bring guns into this town, but that's not what Clint Eastwood. He's going to stand up for the marginalized group and kill the police. He's the first ACAB. He's the first Antifa, which is kind of interesting. That aspect, the contradiction in politics of this movie versus Clint Eastwood himself, is a very interesting kind of hypocrisy in the politics of Clint Eastwood himself. Let's see. Is there any aspects of this that I missed? The overexcited kid is a fun character, because he's like, he's talking a big game, and then when it comes down to it, like, one, he can't see. He's like nearsighted. But then also, when he does finally kill somebody, you realize that it was the first time he's ever killed somebody, and you see how it's like completely damaged him. Meanwhile, Clint Eastwood is, chugging his whiskey or whatever to get his super juice to go avenge his buddy Ned. Killing 5 people, like the end scene where he goes into the place, the billiard hall, quote unquote, where the prostitution's going, and the sheriff's like, yeah, we did such a good job, rah, 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 pat himself on the back. And then Clint Eastwood comes in and lays out 5 people pretty effortlessly, and I guess dodges bullets, and gets the writer all juiced up to write stories about him. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Now you can wear The Many Faces, original art by Ray Taylor. Select pieces from the ongoing series of abstract ink paintings. All products made with high-quality materials, made right here in the USA. Go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch to browse the entire collection and save yourself an extra 10% when you check out by using coupon code RTSTMF. So once again, go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch and save 10% when you use coupon code RTSTMF. And now back to our show. That I enjoyed that aspect of it because at least the story itself was, despite it being contradictory to Clint Eastwood's politics, like the story itself of avenging these prostitutes that got brutalized. Like, I'm all for it. Like, the actual story of it is like, yeah, like I was rooting for the revenge. I was rooting for his character to go in and lay waste to those guys. And it's, kind of a badass scene. You could tell why this is my first Clint Eastwood Western also. I haven't watched a lot of Clint Eastwood movies necessarily. So, but you could tell that Clint Eastwood is like the stereotypical, the quintessential cowboy, Western cowboy, like rugged. He's got the look. His look, I would say, fits perfectly with that type of a character. But yeah, overall good. And the other part that I didn't like when you're kind of like introducing him, he was like this violent, like in his past, he was like this violent outlaw gunman type of a guy. But he was changed by a good woman, which I don't necessarily agree with that kind of fantasy. That idea that like women can change a man like that. I'm not saying people can't change, but the idea, it just enforces a bad precedent that I think a lot of people think incorrectly that they're going to change somebody. But whatever. You would think that like him having, like, you could see why he would change, but like, oh, for the good woman, I changed my life. I was a bad man, and a good woman changed me into a good man. Whereas you could be like, yeah, he got older. Yes, he found the love of a good woman, but he also had kids. Like, there's a lot of reasons why he may have hung up his spurs, as it were. But he didn't really care about his kids when he goes to avenge Ned's death. Like, there's really, like, the mom is dead. He's a single father. And once his buddy Ned gets killed, he really has no concern for his kids at all. Like, as far as he can, like, he's willing to die to avenge Ned's murder, and no real consideration paid to his kids. But I guess he read the script and knew how it was going to end. But yeah, Unforgiven, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the casting. The acting is great. Pretty dark movie, visually dark movie. So kind of tough to see, but overall, it has a great, the shot the movie opens and closes on is this like beautiful silhouette of his like ranch house with the orange sunset in the background. I thought that was pretty beautiful. Like, it definitely had beautiful shots, and probably out of the movies directed by Clint Eastwood that I have seen, probably an actual good one. Like, I could see why at one point people enjoyed his movies, but I'm not probably the only Clint Eastwood directed movie that I've actually seen and actually like. But yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it. I enjoyed it. Unforgiven. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out.
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.